There are moments in life when we find ourselves standing at a precipice, not of a mountain, but of our own integrity. We face a choice to uphold our inner standard or to bend, to shrink, to diminish ourselves for the sake of another's approval, comfort, or convenience. This isn't merely about assertiveness. It is about the fundamental architecture of your soul, the very blueprint of your character. It is the silent, ongoing referendum on who you truly are and who you aspire to be. Have you ever felt that subtle pressure, that silent expectation, pushing you to compromise a value, to hide a truth, or to act against your better judgment just to avoid conflict, to gain acceptance, or to prevent someone else's discomfort? This isn't a loud demand. Often, it's a whisper, an unspoken societal rule, a deep-seated fear of rejection that drives us to become smaller versions of ourselves. It's a silent transaction where you trade a piece of your authenticity for a fleeting sense of belonging. But what is the true cost of such a bargain? What happens when you repeatedly abandon your inner compass, not for grand principles, but for trivial external gains? The Stoics knew this battle intimately. They understood that true power lies not in dominating others, but in mastering oneself, in standing firm on the bedrock of your own virtue, regardless of the shifting sands of external opinion. They taught that your worth is an internal commodity, not something granted or revoked by others. To lower yourself is not merely a social misstep, it is a philosophical surrender. It is a tacit agreement that your inner peace, your self-respect, and your very character are negotiable. But they are not. They are the inviolable core of who you are designed to be, the hegemonikon, your ruling faculty, which must remain sovereign. This path of self-diminishment leads not to harmony, but to resentment, to a quiet despair, and ultimately to a profound disconnect from your authentic self, eroding your eudaimonia, your flourishing. In this journey, we will uncover not just how to resist the urge to lower yourself, but why such an urge arises, and how to cultivate the unshakable inner fortress that ensures your integrity remains absolute. We will explore how to live a life where your actions are always aligned with your highest self, commanding respect not through force but through unwavering character. Most people spend their lives reacting. Few learn the power of remaining calm, silent, and in control. If something in today's message resonated deeply with you, it's because a stronger version of yourself is trying to emerge. Thousands have already discovered the principles inside the silent power, and many say they wish they had learned them years earlier. Plus 5 exclusive bonuses. The silent power reveals timeless Stoic lessons for mastering emotions, building unshakable confidence, commanding respect without speaking, and developing the mental strength that cannot be broken by criticism, rejection, or adversity. The question is simple: will you continue reacting to life, or start mastering it? Get instant access through the first pinned comment and begin your journey toward true self-mastery today. The hidden problem that most people never truly acknowledge is the insidious, gradual erosion of their self-respect, not through dramatic betrayals, but through a multitude of small, seemingly insignificant compromises. It's not the sudden, obvious act of selling out your values. It's the quiet surrender to convenience, the subtle agreement to an opinion you don't hold, the hesitant smile masking disagreement, or the silent acceptance of disrespectful treatment. These are the minute concessions that, over time, sculpt a self that feels increasingly unfamiliar and disempowered. This isn't merely a series of isolated incidents. It's a slow, cumulative process akin to the boiling frog parable, where the changes are so incremental they go unnoticed until you realize the water is scalding. Each time you silence your truth, you chip away at the conviction of your own voice. Each time you ignore a boundary violation, you send a message to your subconscious that your boundaries are permeable and optional. This hidden erosion begins innocently enough. Perhaps you bite your tongue to keep the peace at a family dinner, even when a fundamental principle is being trampled. Or you agree to a task at work that violates your boundaries, fearing the repercussions of saying no. Maybe you adjust your personality, your hobbies, or even your dreams to better fit into a social circle, to be perceived as more likable, more acceptable. Each instance, on its own, seems minor, a justifiable adaptation to life's complexities. Yet each time you override your inner voice, each time you prioritize external harmony over internal congruence, you send a powerful, detrimental message to yourself. Your authentic self is not quite good enough. Your convictions are negotiable. Your boundaries are permeable. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, repeatedly emphasizes the importance of maintaining one's inner citadel, a fortress of character and judgment that remains impervious to external pressures. He understood that compromising oneself is not just about losing an argument. It's about weakening the walls of that inner stronghold, making it vulnerable to every passing thought and external whim. When you consistently lower your standards for others, you teach them, and more importantly, you teach yourself, that your core values are flexible and that your self-worth is contingent upon external validation. This cultivates a deep-seated insecurity, because if your value is determined by others, it can also be taken away by others. You become a leaf blown by every social wind, instead of a tree rooted firmly in your own soil. This quiet process, unnoticed by the world, is the true hidden problem, leaving you feeling less whole, less powerful, and profoundly less yourself, severed from your own daemon, your guiding spirit. The most common mistake that perpetuates this self-diminishment is the mistaken belief that your value, your worthiness, and your very identity are primarily determined by external opinion, praise, or criticism. This error leads people to constantly adjust, perform, and sacrifice their authentic selves, creating a debilitating dependency on the approval of others. Instead of drawing strength from within, they seek validation from without, like a fragile plant constantly turning its leaves towards an ever-shifting light source, never developing its own inherent strength. This confusion between reputation and true character is a profound error. Reputation is what others think you are. Character is what you are. Consider how often people censor their true thoughts in conversations, not out of malice, but out of fear of disagreement. How frequently do individuals pursue careers, relationships, or lifestyles that aren't genuinely fulfilling, simply because these choices garner respect or admiration from their peers, family, or society? This is the core of the mistake, confusing external perception with internal reality. You begin to define yourself by the reflection you see in others' eyes, rather than by the unwavering gaze of your own conscience. This constant pursuit of external affirmation creates a fragile self-concept, one that could be shattered by a harsh word, a disapproving glance, or a simple misunderstanding. Your emotional state becomes a ship without a rudder, tossed by the volatile waves of external judgments. The Stoics, particularly Epictetus, were emphatic about this. He taught that some things are up to us and some things are not up to us. Your reputation, what others think of you, their opinions, their reactions, these are all not up to you. They are externals, indifferent to your true nature. To base your self-worth on such externals is to surrender control of your most precious possession, your peace of mind and your prohairesis, your moral purpose. When you live by the barometer of others' opinions, you hand them the keys to your emotional well-being. You grant them permission to elevate you with praise or crush you with scorn. This mistake keeps you perpetually in a state of performance, always trying to earn or maintain affection, never truly resting in the secure knowledge of your inherent worth. Breaking free from this common error requires a radical shift in perspective, recognizing that true value stems from virtue, integrity, and rational action, not from the fickle judgment of the crowd. This leads us to consider what foundational Stoic practice can solidify this internal independence. One of the most powerful yet rarely practiced Stoic habits for preventing self-diminishment is the systematic practice of discerning and cultivating what is truly up to us and remaining indifferent to what is not up to us. This is the core Stoic discipline of adiaphora, or things indifferent. It's not about apathy, it's about strategic focus, directing your energy solely toward your own judgments, intentions, and actions, which are the only things genuinely within your control. It means recognizing that while externals can impact us, they do not define us or dictate our inner state unless we assent to that impression. Most people live their lives in reverse, pouring immense emotional and mental energy into things that are fundamentally external and therefore beyond their power to command. Other people's opinions, their reactions, their moods, societal expectations, reputation, status, and even health and wealth beyond a certain basic point. When you invest your sense of worth in these external variables, you inevitably become a hostage to fortune, constantly adjusting your sails to catch favorable winds or shrinking in fear of impending storms. This makes you vulnerable to lowering yourself, because the perceived cost of not pleasing others, of not conforming, feels too high when your self-esteem is on the line. The Stoic practice involves a daily, conscious effort to categorize every event, every interaction, every thought. Is this within my control, or is it an external? If it's an external, you develop a reasoned indifference to it, meaning you refuse to let it dictate your inner state or compromise your principles. This is not about denying the external event. It is about denying its power over your internal judgment and your virtue. Seneca, a master of this discipline, taught that the wise person finds their good within themselves, independent of external circumstances. He advocated for living with a serene self-sufficiency, recognizing that true happiness and integrity cannot be granted or taken away by others. By systematically withdrawing your emotional investment from externals, you build an unshakable inner fortress. You cease to chase fleeting approval and instead cultivate robust self-respect. This habit frees you to act according to your deepest virtues, regardless of how your actions are received by others, thus eliminating the very impulse to lower yourself. This deep psychological shift then enables us to understand the underlying mechanisms at play. To truly understand why we sometimes lower ourselves, we must examine the deep-seated psychological mechanism that underpins human behavior. Our innate drive for social connection and avoidance of rejection. This mechanism, while adaptive in our evolutionary past, often tricks us into believing we can control others' opinions by adjusting ourselves, leading to an external locus of control, a state antithetical to Stoic freedom. This isn't a mere philosophical concept, it's hardwired into our biology. From a primal perspective, being part of a tribe was essential for survival. Rejection meant vulnerability, isolation, and often death. Our brains evolved to register social pain, like criticism or exclusion, in similar regions as physical pain. This wiring creates a powerful, often unconscious, compulsion to seek approval and avoid disapproval. When someone subtly or overtly expresses judgment, disagreement, or lack of appreciation, it triggers this ancient alarm system, signaling a potential threat to our belonging. In response, our immediate, instinctive urge is to appease, to conform, to modify our behavior or words, to restore harmony and secure our place within the tribe. This often happens below the level of conscious thought, a knee-jerk reaction based on millennia of survival instinct. This natural inclination, however, becomes problematic when it overrides our rational faculty and our commitment to virtue. We project an illusion of control onto the external world, believing that if we just say the right thing, wear the right clothes, agree with the prevailing sentiment, or sacrifice a piece of ourselves, we can guarantee positive regard from others. This is the external locus of control. The belief that external forces, people, or circumstances dictate our well-being and success. When you operate from this mindset, you are constantly outsourcing your sense of self. You become a puppet, with the strings held by the fluctuating opinions and moods of everyone around you. You're not being responsive, you're being reactive, allowing your ancient fight-or-flight system to make decisions for your rational mind. The Stoics recognized this illusion. They understood that you can control your efforts, your intentions, and your responses, but never the outcome, particularly when the outcome depends on another person's mind. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself that others' minds are beyond his control, just as their bodies are. This psychological trap, where we mistakenly believe we can earn constant approval through self-diminishment, is precisely what keeps us stuck in a cycle of insecurity and compromise. True liberation begins with recognizing this mechanism and consciously choosing to operate from an internal locus of control, anchoring your worth in your character, not in the volatile sea of others' perceptions. Most people spend their lives reacting. Few learn the power of remaining calm, silent, and in control. If something in today's message resonated deeply with you, it's because a stronger version of yourself is trying to emerge. Thousands have already discovered the principles inside the silent power, and many say they wish they had learned them years earlier. Plus 5 exclusive bonuses. The silent power reveals timeless Stoic lessons for mastering emotions, building unshakable confidence, commanding respect without speaking, and developing the mental strength that cannot be broken by criticism, rejection, or adversity. The question is simple. Will you continue reacting to life, or start mastering it? Get instant access through the first pinned comment and begin your journey toward true self-mastery today. To strengthen this message, consider the powerful example of Epictetus himself, a man born into slavery who achieved profound inner freedom precisely by understanding this principle. Epictetus endured physical abuse and degradation as a slave, yet he famously taught that no one could truly harm him, for his mind, his faculty of judgment, his prohairesis remained his own. His body could be chained, his master could inflict pain, but his inner self, his integrity, was absolutely inviolable. He recognized that true injury comes not from external events, but from our judgments about them. There is a story, perhaps apocryphal but illustrative, where Epictetus's master, out of spite, began twisting his leg. Epictetus calmly warned him, "If you go on, you'll break it." When the master, ignoring his warning, snapped the bone, Epictetus simply stated, without a trace of anger or despair, "I told you that you would break it." This wasn't a display of masochism, but of profound Stoic detachment to externals, and an absolute commitment to his inner freedom. He refused to allow the external act of cruelty to contaminate his inner state, his virtue, or his self-respect. He never lowered himself by begging, by crying out in emotional anguish that would grant his tormentor power over his mind. He recognized that the master could control his body, but not his assent to the impression of pain or injustice. This story highlights that lowering yourself is not a physical act, but an internal concession. Epictetus, even in the most extreme circumstances of physical subservience, refused to become subservient in his spirit. He demonstrated that true authority over oneself can exist even when all external freedoms are denied. His master could own his body, but he could never own Epictetus's will, his judgments, or his understanding of what truly mattered. He epitomized the Stoic ideal, to be unconquerable in your core, to remain a free man even in chains. His life became a living testament to the idea that your worth, your dignity, and your integrity are not contingent on how others treat you, how they perceive you, or the power they hold over your external circumstances. They are solely dependent on how you choose to respond, how you choose to judge, and how you choose to live in accordance with reason and virtue. Epictetus never lowered himself for anyone because he understood that the true self resides in an unconquerable fortress of the mind, a place where no external force can penetrate without your consent. This historical truth then demands an immediate, practical application in our daily lives. Now let's translate these principles into an immediate, practical exercise you can apply in your daily life to prevent self-diminishment, the inner counsel, or judgment filtration technique. This exercise will empower you to consciously pause and evaluate situations where you feel tempted to compromise your integrity. It helps you activate your rational faculty over your reactive impulses. When you find yourself in a scenario where you're urged to say yes when you want to say no, to agree when you disagree, to adjust your truth for external comfort, or to accept treatment that feels beneath you, pause for a moment. Instead of reacting instinctively, activate your inner counsel. Imagine you are in a quiet chamber, and seated before you are the wisest Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, serene and reflective, Seneca, the statesman and tragedian, eloquent and practical, Epictetus, the former slave, unwavering in his freedom, and Zeno, the founder, steadfast in his logic. They are silently observing your dilemma, awaiting your decision, embodying the virtues you seek to cultivate. Now, present your situation to this inner counsel. Articulate the pressure you feel, the temptation to compromise. Then ask yourself these guiding questions. 1. Is this action truly aligned with my core virtues? Courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom. Am I about to speak or act out of genuine integrity, out of what is truly good and right, or out of fear, people-pleasing, or a desire for fleeting external validation? Am I being brave enough to be authentic, fair in my dealings, moderate in my reactions, and wise in my choices? 2. Am I making this choice for internal reasons because it is right, rational, and virtuous, or for external reasons like avoiding criticism, seeking praise, or maintaining a superficial harmony that masks a deeper dissonance? Am I acting from my prohairesis, or am I being swayed by things not up to me? 3. What message am I sending to myself, and implicitly to others, about my own boundaries and my self-worth if I proceed with this action? Will this action diminish my self-respect, even if no one else notices? Will it reinforce a pattern of self-abandonment? 4. What would my wisest, most virtuous self do in this exact moment, if free from fear or desire for external approval? What would my ideal Stoic self, detached from emotional sway, rationally determine as the correct course? Allow a few silent moments for these questions to resonate. You will find that the clarity emerges naturally, guiding you towards an action congruent with your highest self. This inner counsel acts as a moral filter, allowing you to scrutinize your motivations before your actions. It detaches you from the emotional urgency of the moment and connects you to your deeper rational self, empowering your hegemonic. By consistently engaging in this practice, you train your mind to prioritize inner congruence over external pressures, strengthening your resolve and making it increasingly difficult for you to unconsciously lower yourself for anyone. This regular self-assessment is the bridge to a profound and lasting transformation of your identity. Through understanding the subtle erosion of self-respect, the mistake of external validation, the power of indifference, the psychological traps, and the steadfast example of Epictetus, you are not merely acquiring lessons, you are undergoing an identity transformation. You are shifting from a reactive, externally driven self to a grounded, internally guided individual. This final awakening is the realization that you don't need to be given respect. You command it by how you live, by the unwavering strength of your character. This transformation is not about becoming arrogant or aloof. It is about embodying a profound self-respect rooted in reason and virtue, an authentic presence. When you cease to compromise your integrity, when you consistently choose congruence over convenience, you emit an aura of quiet authority. Others perceive it, not as a challenge, but as a boundary, a clear signal that your inner world is not negotiable, that your values are sacred. You become like an immovable rock against which the waves of others' opinions, demands, and manipulations simply break. Your character becomes your shield and your lighthouse. This new identity liberates you from the exhausting pursuit of external approval. You no longer need to perform, to justify, or to shrink. Your worth is no longer a question to be answered by the world, but a self-evident truth you embody through every choice you make. This isn't just about avoiding self-diminishment. It's about actively asserting your sovereign self. You develop an unshakable inner confidence because your actions are always aligned with your highest principles, in harmony with nature. The fear of rejection diminishes because you understand that the only true rejection is the one you inflict upon yourself by abandoning your integrity. This journey culminates in the understanding that true power lies in self-possession. You become the master of your own domain, your own judgments, and your own peace. You stand tall, not through defiance, but through an inner quietude that knows its own measure and refuses to be lessened by anything outside itself. This is the ultimate Stoic lesson. To live as a complete, self-respecting individual, perpetually aligned with your deepest virtues, never needing to lower yourself for anyone because your value is already absolute, residing in your rational and virtuous choice. Most people spend their lives reacting. Few learn the power of remaining calm, silent, and in control. If something in today's message resonated deeply with you, it's because a stronger version of yourself is trying to emerge. Thousands have already discovered the principles inside the silent power, and many say they wish they had learned them years earlier. Plus 5 exclusive bonuses. The silent power reveals timeless Stoic lessons for mastering emotions, building unshakable confidence, commanding respect without speaking, and developing the mental strength that cannot be broken by criticism, rejection, or adversity. The question is simple: will you continue reacting to life, or start mastering it? Get instant access through the first pinned comment and begin your journey toward true self-mastery today. What specific situation in your life right now makes you feel tempted to lower yourself? And how will applying the inner counsel help you choose differently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this message resonated, please like this video and subscribe for more Stoic wisdom to help you master yourself and your life.